Yeah.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Cleveland Sports Bros podcast. I'm Matt alongside my brother Nick. Nick, how you doing today?
Great. A very exciting weekend coming up for Cleveland.
Yep. Sorry we've had a long break, but we're back. It's football season. We're hoping to bring in, um, one episode per week to break down the game, and also look ahead to the next week. And today we got an exciting NFL Week 1 episode, and we're not only going to talk about the upcoming game against the Bengals, but we're going to go through the schedule week by week and give our predictions, and then ultimately a season prediction. So, looking forward to doing that. Nick, ready to go?
Yeah, real quick, I'd like to point out I learned since Deshaun has started in 2017, he is 0-4 as a starting quarterback. But the Browns have won the last 5 home matchups against Cincinnati. I thought that was just 2 interesting bullet points.
Yeah.
But getting into the schedule, week 1, big Battle of Ohio hosting the Bengals. I think Cleveland's going to come out on top. Tough battle facing Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and Joe Mixon, all those guys. But I think it'll be a tight battle, and Cleveland's going to come out on top.
Yeah, I agree. I think Cincinnati's probably the better team until proven otherwise, but that doesn't mean the less good team can't win now and then. It's expected to be a close game, and we'll get into season predictions, of course, as well. But yeah, I think the Browns have a lot going for them. One, they're home. Deshaun has had a full off season to prepare and get better and hopefully shake the rust off. Both teams I'm sure have made good off-season acquisitions, but I really like what the Browns did, especially in the defensive line. For whatever reason, the Browns have had pretty good success against Joe Burrow and Cincinnati in general. I think the Browns have the better coach. I'm not sure, right? That's kind of hard to say since their coach has been in the Super Bowl, but those are some of the reasons why.
Yeah, and one final point between the Browns and Bengals in the past few seasons. Cleveland, if you want to look at it exactly, has a 4-1 record against Cincinnati, and it should be an exciting week 1, and that's this Sunday, 1 p.m. Cleveland Browns Stadium.
Yep, can't wait. So without further ado, let's get into our week by week schedule predictions. We both already said week 1, we chalked it up as win for the Browns. So we'll move on to week 2, Monday Night Football in Pittsburgh. Nick, what do you think?
I think the Browns, I haven't looked at the exact date. They had a shot last year. But I think for the first time in quite a while, they will grab that 2-0 start. And it's a unique first month for the Browns, playing all of their division opponents in 3 of the first 4 games. But, there's a lot of question marks, I believe, at least from Cleveland fans, about Kenny Pickett. Well, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I actually have it as a loss, and it pains me to say that, of course, but look, they could win this game, but I think Mike Tomlin is an excellent coach. Kenny Pickett is getting a lot of positive press, both out of Pittsburgh and nationally, it seems. TJ Watt is back and healthy, and they have a really good defense, some great receivers. It's Monday night in Pittsburgh. I wouldn't be shocked if they lost this one. Wouldn't be shocked if they won either, but yeah, unfortunately, I have that as a loss. Week 3, they host Tennessee, the Titans. Nick, what do you have there?
I actually have this as a loss. So here's where it becomes 2-1. And we remember Deshaun's former star wide receiver, DeAndre Hopkins, is now on the Tennessee Titans, along with Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry. I kind of first saw this and put it, well, when I say first saw it, it was kind of with the news of Katie York. I kind of made a joke about it, even though he'll likely be on the practice squad. But that's kind of why I put it as a loss. I fear he would come into Cleveland Brown Stadium and just bang a, you know, NFL record game-winning field goal against us and just make us regret cutting him. But you're not going to win every game in all seriousness. Like Nick Chubb, Derrick Henry is highly talented. So is Ryan Tannehill. And like I mentioned, Hopkins. It should be an interesting game. Can't win them all, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, and I think all good points. Mike Vrabel is an excellent coach. We know that. Derrick Henry is one of the best running backs. Debatable whether or not he's better than Nick Chubb, but both really good. Tannehill is very good in his own right, and of course now he has DeAndre Hopkins to throw to. So yeah, gonna be a tough game, but I like the Browns at home. All right, week 4, they host the Baltimore Ravens. Nick, what do you have?
I'd have them winning that game. It wouldn't just be a win, but all 3 wins against the division. So I have them starting off pretty high in the AFC North. Lamar Jackson, of course, is a highly talented quarterback. Interestingly, his top receiver, if some people like to throw in the mix receiver, tight end, Mark Andrews. But if we're looking at receiver, they acquired Odell Beckham. We know he had his ups and downs here as a wideout and with QE Baker Mayfield. But I think having a new team and QE with them, I fear, especially against the Browns, he could thrive. They also have, was it John Harbaugh or
Yeah.
John Jim? I get him mixed up. Very tough coach, like the previous one, Mike Vrabel. But I just have this feeling that the Browns are going to get some nice AFC North magic going.
Yeah, I've kind of wavered on this one back and forth, and it's going to be tough. I mean, Baltimore we know is good; they're very well coached. Lamar can be dominant, and he's certainly very dynamic. But I do have the Browns winning. I have them, and again, they're home. But it's going to be a tough one. I mean, Baltimore has a lot of players coming back. Lamar was injured as he is frequently with his style of play. He's coming back. I think they have Dobbins coming back at running back. They have weapons all over the field. Mark Andrews. This is maybe one of the toughest wins I have or games I have as winning. Would not at all be surprised if they lose this game, but I do have them winning. So I have them starting off 3-1. Nick, you're 3-1 as well.
Correct. And one final point on that game, I don't know about you, but I heard a while ago that Lamar, I don't know if they were having him practice this way or if he wants to take it to this level, but I believe he plans on staying in the pocket and being a more reliable on his arm rather than his legs. And if that's true, watch out for Garrett and Zadarius to get after him, especially with the way Schwartz is going to build up that defensive scheme.
Yeah, I agree. I think while that scheme has risks with multiple quarterbacks, I just like the Browns' defensive talent enough, and especially in the secondary to kind of get some coverage sacks. Meaning that Lamar is going to be kind of scrambling around and have no one to throw to. I think, and he'll probably hit Mark Andrews here and there, and not to take away from their other receivers as well, who are pretty good. But I like the Browns in that one.
And then we're moving on to week 5, which is the Browns bye week. It is the earliest bye for any team, and we both agreed they would be 3-1. But moving on to the following game, we have against the 49ers. I don't see Cleveland winning that game, despite it being played at Cleveland Browns Stadium. I believe Bryce Harper is who's their QB? I can't recall. Brock Purdy. I knew I had the initials right. I think Purdy's gonna thrive in his second year with the San Francisco. I believe the first full year, and that's where I have them dropping a game and going to 3-2.
Yeah, I have them losing as well. Not so much because of Purdy, although he was great last year. Amazing story being the last pick in the NFL draft and being the third stringer, I believe, to start the season, to be able to do what he did. And I think Kyle Shanahan is going to be able to suit the offense well around him, and he's going to put up numbers, and they're going to get a lot of wins. I think the 49ers might be the most talented roster in the NFL outside of quarterback. I think we're both, and most people are in agreement that Pat Mahomes is the best quarterback. Purdy could be up there one day, or Purdy, I should say. But I don't think he's there yet, although he's surrounded by tons of talent and a really good coach. This might be the best team in the NFC. I know the Eagles would disagree, but yeah, I don't like them winning this game, unfortunately. But hey, at least it's an NFC game, so it matters a little bit less. You don't want to take wins for granted, but if we're going to lose, I'd like to lose to NFC teams. All right, next week we're at the Colts. I have them winning this game. The Colts kind of, they're a good team, but right now Jonathan Taylor is sitting out. He's one of the best running backs in the league. We'll see if probably by then he'll be playing, but even so, a lot of question marks. The Colts are a good team, but they have a rookie quarterback who is gonna have a lot to prove, and I think it's just gonna be tough. I like the Browns in this one.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know a lot about the Indianapolis Colts. I do know, I can't recall his name, but the QB they chose was the 4th overall pick. So it should be an exciting game. But one thing I do know for sure, any rookie QB that is playing in a game, gonna have their hands full when they're trying to avoid Myles Garrett and the Browns' hopefully new restructured D line. So it should be a fun week 6, I believe that would be.
Yeah, I agree. I think it just nothing really against Anthony Richardson, just being a rookie quarterback going against what should be an MVP level quarterback and that Browns defensive line. I just it's gonna be a tough game, I think, for the Colts. All right, next, back-to-back away games. They're in Seattle. It's always tough going on the road, especially all the way on the West Coast. But I have them winning that game as well against the team led by Geno Smith, who had a lot of success last year. He's a really good quarterback, well coached. Going to be a tough game, but I like the Browns.
Yeah, I'm not so sure about what goes into this matchup, but I'm gonna give the Browns a loss here. Going out west is not easy, and I didn't look too deep into this matchup, but I think just you can sometimes say not just the QB, but as a whole, you're gonna have your ups and downs, and I kind of had to throw a loss in the middle of the schedule here.
Yep.
So, now the Browns, after the Seattle matchup, they will return home and face the Arizona Cardinals. And what's interesting about this matchup, Josh Dobbs, who the Browns would have had as their second string QB, will likely face them since Kyler Murray will still be recovering from last year's ACL tear, and that should be an interesting, fun matchup. But I have the Browns beating Dobbs and the Cardinals. I think without Kyler Murray, they're gonna have their struggles. So I would expect Cleveland to come out on top.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Cardinals, it's no surprise they're, without their starting quarterback and with, I believe they have a new head coach, a lot of new moving pieces. Josh Dobbs doesn't have much experience as a starter. He's a really good backup. We wish him well and aside from when they play us, but yeah, I just think, the Cardinals are gonna have a tough time coming into Cleveland. I'm chalking that up to as a in the win column for the Browns. All right, next we have them going to Baltimore again. So the first AFC North opponent that we play for the second time. Nick, what do you have there?
I have them dropping this game to Baltimore. It's always tough to, play them on the road. We don't want to look back in the past. We've seen Baker throw for 300 plus yards in a game and still come out on the losing end. I know he's not our QB anymore, but Lamar is extremely talented. Who can forget that game? Baker led us to, I think we were down 2 possessions at least. Lamar was in the locker room getting checked on, and he still came out and pulled out a victory. They're a tough team to beat when Baltimore's playing at home. So I have this as a loss for Cleveland.
Yeah, me too. Again, even that first home game against them, I wavered, although I have the Browns winning. Look, I think it'll be a well fought game. How about this? I have Justin Tucker winning in the final seconds on a 65-yard field goal or something like that. I don't know if that'll be more or less painful. But hey, look, if we go into Baltimore and give them a tough game and Deshaun throws for, 3 or 4 touchdowns and Chubb has 1 or 2 rushing touchdowns and we lose on a 65-yard field goal, worse things have happened, I guess.
After the Ravens game, we have the Steelers coming to Cleveland, and I don't recall the last time they've done it, but for the first time in a long time, I have Cleveland sweeping Pittsburgh. And like I said the first time, like they play him in week 2, I just don't see a lot of expectations in his second year. Kenny Pickett, I do know Mike Tomlin is a future Hall of Fame coach, no doubt about it. And the defense is extremely talented. So it won't be easy, but I think Deshaun and Chubb and the Browns will find a way.
Yeah, I agree. I think they'll win. Again, it's always going to be a tough matchup. I think the AFC North is probably the toughest division in the entire NFL. The Browns are home though, and I don't see them losing back to back this time. I think they'll be able to make some good adjustments after the loss. Especially Pittsburgh. Not to go back to the start of the season, but I believe they go to San Francisco week 1. That's going to be tough, and I think they're going to lose and just be even more motivated to win at home Monday night in front of their fans. So this time it'll be in Cleveland, and I think we get the best of them. All right, next we have the Browns going to Denver. Does it always seem like we play in Denver? It seems like we never host them.
I was literally thinking that, and while that may seem to be the case, and we all know the famous term, the Mile High City, I have the Browns winning this game with their new kicker, DeAndre Hopkins. That is not how I see it ending. Hopefully, Dustin, excuse me. That is not how I see it ending, hopefully. But since I brought that up, we need to keep in mind when the Browns, and it will happen, are in last possession drives where they need to, get a score to win. Hopefully, it won't always be the case where Deshaun needs to put it in the end zone, but getting your kicker in range, I don't see that being the case here, just because Denver, and I think we would have bad luck there. But I see Cleveland grabbing the win, which, in my opinion, would be their 7th win.
Yeah, I have the Browns dropping this game. It's always tough to go into Denver. And I think Russell Wilson will kind of have a really good bounce back here. He's too talented to kind of repeat what he had last year. It was a new system for him. So going on the road, especially in Denver, is a tough place to play against who I think is still an elite quarterback. The Browns are going to drop that one, unfortunately, I think.
Another back-to-back road trip. This is when the Browns travel to Los Angeles Rams. Goff is still their QB. Stafford. I don't know why I'm getting all the QB names mixed up, but I have the Rams winning this game. It's very tough to go into SoFi and win a game, and we know the Browns had their struggles a few years ago, and even with a talented QB like Deshaun, like I said, you're not going to win every game, and I see them dropping this game out in Los Angeles.
Yeah, I actually have the Browns winning this game, so another bounce back after a loss. This will be tough, though. I think the Browns are just a much better team. Stafford is a great quarterback when healthy, but it just seems like they've lost a lot of talent around them. And I like the Browns' defensive line kind of being a huge factor in this game as well. Of course, as with most games, I like the Browns in that one actually. All right, after playing back-to-back on the road against Denver and the Rams, the Browns will come home and host Jacksonville with one of the rising star quarterbacks, Trevor Lawrence. Nick, what do you have in that game?
I have the Browns beating Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars. I know Lawrence had a big playoff victory last season. I don't see the Browns defense allowing him to push him around at home. Anything can happen. You're getting later in the year, both sides, injuries, etc. But I think by this point, that, in my opinion, being their 8th win, they'll be too gelled as a team, offense, defense, special teams, and they're not going to let Jacksonville push them around, and they'll get their 8th win.
Yeah, I have the Browns losing this game actually. Trevor Lawrence is very, very good. The Jags are good, certainly. Doug Peterson now is their coach. He's very well respected. I think they're just going to take an even greater step forward from what they did last year. I know they ended up losing to the Chiefs, but like you said, they had a great playoff victory, come from behind victory. Lawrence threw 4 interceptions, followed up by 4 touchdowns, I believe, to beat the Chargers. I think they're going to take another step forward, and they're in an easy division, so they're going to probably, or at least potentially, have more wins at this point. And I think that can be momentum at play and coming into Cleveland. And the Browns can win this game, but I think they'll lose it. All right, after that, the Browns host the Chicago Bears. Time to be determined. Certainly could be flexed to a primetime game depending on what the teams are doing. We've seen Justin Fields. We know he's very talented. He's one of the, I think, kind of dark horses for MVP. And we know being in the NFC, there's probably going to be less competition. He's an excellent quarterback, but I think the Browns just have an up and down better roster. They're home. We've had success against Fields. I know that was a little bit earlier in his career, but I like the Browns in this one.
Yeah, I agree. The Browns are going to grab this game. And I can't recall 1 or 2 years ago who could forget, even without Jim Schwartz calling the shots defensively, what Garrett and the Browns were able to do defensively, getting 9.5 sacks as a whole, 4.5 from Garrett. That was a very exciting memory. And I think the Browns defense will just get after Fields and get the win, maybe force some defensive touchdowns.
Yeah, for sure. All right, next week in Houston again, if we go back to Houston as we did last year. I have the Browns winning. Houston, they have a new quarterback who, of course, was very talented at Ohio State, CJ Stroud. They have a lot of our draft picks, but I just think the Browns have the upper hand. A better team, better quarterback at this point, at least. And I just think at this point, Houston's going to be having a rough season. Might be kind of checked out, and I think the Browns win this game handily.
I completely agree with that. And, Deshaun's going to be returning back to Houston. There's going to be a lot of, you know, angry fans with him, certainly going into Houston. I think it's interesting playing CJ Stroud, former Buckeye QB, and, think about it, it's back to back QBs we play that played for the Buckeyes. I think it's very interesting. And, Deshaun could have his mistakes in this game, but overall, I think the Browns are going to come out on top. Following that game, the Browns are going to host the New York Jets and their new quarterback, future Hall of Famer Aaron Rodgers. And who could forget what happened to the Browns last season, leading by 13 with a minute 55, and they blew the game. So I know the Browns, at least our fans, are going to want revenge. Who knows if the Browns players will look at it directly like that and want to grab revenge, but that's certainly how the fans look at it.
Yeah, so you have them winning or losing?
Winning.
Okay, me too. Yeah, look, we don't know, the kind of like the Browns, the Jets, I think, have a really good roster that has a giant question mark, and that's what will the quarterback do. We know both have had success in the past. We know, like you said, Rodgers is a future Hall of Famer. But I like the Browns. They're home. It's Thursday night. They seem to have success on Thursday nights. I think there's going to be a lot at stake. It's going to be a crazy environment, and I like the Browns in this one, although it'll be tough. All right, finally, the Browns go to Cincinnati for their Week 1 rematch. I have the Browns losing this game. I think Cincinnati, again, is probably the better team until proven otherwise. They're, I think, probably going to be fighting for a first-round bye, whereas the Browns, I think Cincinnati will probably have the division locked up, and the Browns will have less to play for potentially than Cincinnati, and I think Cincinnati wins this game. What do you think, Nick?
I agree. Cincinnati will be able to get the split, and that'll put the Browns at 11-6. Not terrible by any means, but I also agree that Cincinnati's the king of the division the past 2 years. I don't think that'll change this year unless, there's question marks for Burrow going into Week 1, unless something injury-wise happened to him that was catastrophic. That's not going to change. But that's where I have the Browns losing the final game after 4 straight wins and finishing 11-6.
Yeah, I have them at 11-6 as well. 3-3 in the division. I have them in second place behind Cincinnati. So, look, that'll probably put them at 6th or 7th seed. Maybe just barely getting the playoffs, which might be hard to believe at 11-6. But the AFC is loaded. We know that. And it looks to me like they might face the Chargers in the wild card round. Could be the Jets, depending on what happens, of course. But I think the Chargers are scary. So we'll see. I mean, that's a long way away. But Nick, what do you have real quick postseason? Where do you see the Browns going?
I have the Browns finishing. I'm not great at naming seeds, but I have them going on the road, and I really haven't thought too much into it, but I don't see them grabbing a home win. I think in order for Cleveland to pull that off, they would need to win the division. So I see them playing a wild card on the road and winning a wild card game, but getting eliminated in the divisional round.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. That's tough. I want to say win, but how about this? I'll have a caveat. If they play the Chargers, I think they'll lose. If they play anyone else, I think they win. So who knows where they'll actually line up? But I hate to say it right now, but I haven't. Let's just say that I think they'll lose in the wild card round. It's probably the Chargers, but we'll see. I'd love to be proven wrong. So, all right, thank you everyone for listening through all 17 game predictions in 18 weeks. Can't wait for the season. We're looking forward to bringing you all the highlights and recaps of every game every week. So thank you all for listening. You've been listening to the Cleveland Sports Bros podcast.